Hello YouTube, this is Boston Best 0407, and this is a follow-up to my last video. As I was saying, I had been watching the news. My dad had it on the computer, Chris Matthews show, and I remember besides the whole Benghazi thing, they talked about that women are going to be allowed to serve in combat now. For those who didn't know, at one point this actually was not the case. Women were banned from actual combat, although they could serve, in the military as as a regular, whatever the case may be, in other jobs. But infantry was left to men basically, and now I guess that's not going to be the case. They're going to be able to serve in infantry now. And my personal opinion is that I think this is a bad idea. I know people want equality and whatnot, but there's a lot of problems with mixing the sexes together because this is just, it's not a situation. I mean, it's not like school or something like that. This is a life and death situation. And whereas in the past there was racial segregation, then that was integrated. They had the whole issue of gays in the military. Now I guess that's not the case anymore. So the differences between this is that despite cultural differences, whatever, men are still men, and despite sexuality or whatever, those issues should not come into a military setting, whatever the case may be. When you got a bunch of guys in a room together, in any situation together, they behave like men. They talk about their woman. They talk about girls in magazines. Whatever. They bust balls. They sometimes they push each other around maybe. And in a rough environment like the military, that the kind of stuff can happen. And there's a lot of this kind of rough stuff that goes on, I'm sure. And the problem with bringing women into the fold is that men behave differently around women. Men either become gentlemen, they can change their behavior, chivalrousness, that kind of stuff plays a role. Then you're doing that, plus sometimes guys will compete to get her attention and things like that. These are all the different problems that occur. And while certainly men can change their behavior, treat the women the same as them, so on and so forth, it's a different situation, And it's like I said, it's a rough environment. And, we've had a problem with women getting raped and stuff like this. You hear about this in the news a lot, women who are serving. And it's just like, this is the kind of environment that you have to expect. I mean, and the problem is, this is a problem with women in the military, just in the military. Now, the problem with them being in combat is as obvious as it can be. And I'll tell a personal story. I, at one point myself, wanted to serve in the military. I thought about joining the Marines, and I thought that would be I thought, but I was told, don't do that. My dad was like, no, you should join the Air Force. The Air Force is much easier. Don't join the Marines. One, the Marines is hard to get in. Second, they're doing the hardcore military stuff. And then the Army is completely out of the question because, well, the Army is the one doing a lot of the fighting. If you want to die, that's a good place to go, And I remember my dad's son, or my dad's friend's son, rather, joined the Army, and he joined the infantry. And I remember hearing about how, that was just everybody was worried about him because, it's the infantry. So this is something that women don't have to deal with. However, the reality for a guy like me, for any guy, is that this is the reality of what might happen if you join the military. Women were exempt from this. I think that's a good thing. I think women were lucky that they didn't have to go see that carnage, that battle, and be put into that. And now they're going to have this happen. And I think it's just a really tragic thing, because these things are not a joke. It's the difference between life and death. And while I think a lot of this can be solved if, for example, we had segregated based on gender, for example, females in one with their own units, their own personnel, men with theirs and stuff like that. That would never. I don't think that would ever fly. That would actually solve a lot of these problems. And I'm not opposed to women doing military type jobs. I think that all that would be a good thing. I think women should contribute to the protection of our country. It's just in an infantry setting, in a combat setting, it's a problem. And to go back to the whole gender thing, as I said before, guys being guys encourages cohesiveness. Bringing a woman into that changes the dynamics a little bit, and it's putting women in danger when it shouldn't be necessary. So I'm really opposed to it. In general, I'm opposed to the military. In general, with them in the military in general, then I'm opposed to combat. It's really not about equality. It's about the safety of a group of people. It's just not a good thing. And that's my views. And of course, it's their choice. They don't have to serve. I mean, if we had a draft, it'd be a man's duty. It'd be my duty as a man. It'd be a lot of men's duty as men. But women get the choice. But that's just how I tend to feel about it. And the last thing I'm going to say is that I was hearing a while back about how veterans were having problems, getting the kind of medical services that they needed. There was a lot of this problem. I remember I was in McDonald's. I saw it on TV. There were some people lecturing about it and saying how these problems were, veterans just getting, And I think back to I think one positive thing that could come out of this is that if women were coming back injured, violent, bruised, and stuff like that, I think would be. I remember the YouTuber Girl Rights What brought up the fact that men die from work-related injuries. The vast majority of work-related injuries, work-related deaths are male deaths. But when it started happening to women, people were saying, "Oh, up in arms about it," right? And I think one way that the veterans who served our country will get what they deserve is if it starts happening to women. And you want to know when wars are going to end? Wars are not going to end when women rule the world. Wars are going to end when women are the ones coming back bruised, injured, maimed, and when they, like Hillary Clinton said, to paraphrase her, actually are the ones suffering. That's how we know when wars are going to come to an end. Because when your beautiful daughter comes back with no arms, no legs, bruised face, just looking horrible, that's when you know it's going to become a problem. It's going to set home then. It doesn't matter when you see all the bruised male veterans. When it starts happening to women, that's when we're going to start doing something about it. That's the one thing, positive thing that can come out of this. But war is not a joke, and dying in war is not a joke. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're a part of a group of people that can be exempt and avoid that, all the more power to you. But we don't want this because we want equality. So anyway, that's my opinion, and I'm not explaining all of how I feel about this. Maybe I'll do a bigger video on it at a later point. Who knows? I don't know. But my battery on my recorder is about to die, so I'm going to cut it here, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.